How would you like to make an extra $12,000 per year straight to the bottom line without selling any more properties than you already do? Don't think it's possible? Well, think again. On this episode of the Land.MBA podcast, we will show you how to increase your land profits with one simple hack.
Welcome to the Land.MBA podcast, where we go deep into the business of land investing.
Wow, Howard, this is a pretty provocative topic for a podcast. So you're telling me I can make an additional $12,000 a year without increasing my deal volume? Just how do you propose we do that, Howard?
Well, if you think about any business, and there's always pressure on every business to increase revenue, increase profits. If you're in a public company, the pressure is even higher because you've got to report quarterly earnings, and there's pressure from investors and the board to always be improving in these areas. Well, there's really only three ways. There are only three ways that you can increase profits. It starts with either increasing your revenue, reducing your cost, or in our case, increasing your deal volume. So as the title says, we're going to do this without necessarily increasing our deal volume. And the revenue will be determined by the negotiated price when you go sell the property. So the real focus for us right now to be able to reliably increase our profits is by reducing our costs. And we have a fair amount of control there, more control than we probably even realize, to reduce how much we're paying for our properties. Is it just me, or is it getting harder and harder to count on a job for our financial security? Who would have ever believed that we would go from the lowest unemployment in 50 years to 40 million people unemployed? Whether you have a great job and want to create a second income, or you're recently unemployed, you need to check out Land.MBA, your one-stop shop for land investors. Investing in vacant land is a proven business model that can help you build a reliable and scalable second income. Imagine a business where you love what you do. There's no limit on how much money you can make. You can operate your business from anywhere in the world with an internet connection. And best of all, you can never be fired or downsized. If this sounds good to you, Land.MBA provides everything you need to get your business up and running and delivering income quickly. You get education, an end-to-end video course and optional coaching to help you get started faster and turn your energy into income. You get tools so you can automate and outsource the busy work and stay super organized. You get access to a thriving community of like-minded investors, which is a powerful way to share best practices and develop potential partnerships for growing your business. And finally, you get access to deal financing, so you never have to pass on a great investment opportunity due to limited funds. Our team has over a decade of real estate investing experience and has the knowledge and experience you need to help navigate any investing scenario. And with Land.MBA, we hold nothing back. Because there are no upsells, you get access to all of our combined knowledge right out of the gate. So don't wait to provide your family with financial freedom. Sign up today for Land.MBA's Soup to Nuts Land Investing video course. Just go to courses.land.mba and use coupon code FREEDOM to get 25% off. That's courses.land.mba and coupon code FREEDOM. And let us help you say goodbye to your job and hello to financial freedom.
Don't people feel like it's a kind of a bait and switch? Don't they get upset?
Sometimes they might, but it's all about in how you present something. As everybody who's followed me at all knows, I am a huge advocate of Chris Voss and his book, Never Split the Difference. You can always present bad news in different ways, and you can always soften the blow. There's something that a technique that he uses called an accusation audit. So you're going to come at them with this lower price, and you can anticipate some of the kind of responses they might have. They might have, either it's a bait and switch, you're a scammer, or it might be, you don't know what the hell you're doing. You should have figured this out, in the first time you sent me the price, or whatever it is.
Right.
So you can address that right up front if you want to. You could say, hey, yeah, uh, uh, you're going to think I'm a terrible business person, but the fact of the matter is, when we send out our original offers, we have to send a lot of offers to just get a few deals, and so we're doing very rough pricing in the initial process. But when we have an opportunity like yours with a great property like the one you have, then we go in and we do our due diligence, like we talked about, and I really go deep in understanding market comps and the value of the property, and I've got models that are in place to determine what I need to be able to purchase it at in order to make my business work properly. So based upon that, this is what I can offer you. So you basically you tell them all the things, all the feedback that they're about to give you before they give it to you, so that you've taken the wind out of their sails.
Right. No, I like it. And, I've maybe not as formally done that, but I've certainly done that in cases, not intentionally just to try to squeeze that on every deal. But if there's a deal where I see some additional things on it, maybe the access wasn't as good as it needs to be, I'll still buy it, but I need to buy it cheaper. Maybe the power is further away, different attributes, and we have to walk back our offers sometimes. Now I have something that recently happened to me, actually a deal I just put under contract a few days ago. It was actually a deal that slipped through the cracks, and I was going back through some of my archives, and I found a deal that we just forgot about. We had an accepted purchase agreement back in December for $3,000, I think, a little over $3,000, and I went back to the guy and said, "Look, sorry, we forgot. We just, your deal slipped through the cracks. But in light of the coronavirus and everything that's happening and what's happening in the market, I can only pay you $1,000 for it." So I actually greatly reduced the price, and he accepted it. He's like, "Yeah, no
Get
problem."
out of here.
Yeah. Now that's
you cut it from 3,000 to 1,000. I'm talking about like a small decrease.
Yeah, and I was expecting to maybe meet at $2,000, and it's still a pretty good deal at $2,000. But it just goes back to that old adage that in many cases with land, it's about the situation and not the asset. He was just kind of done, and it was like a garage sale. Wanted to move it.
Yeah, and what you just described sums up the whole hack in one sentence, and that is, if you don't ask, you don't get. And oftentimes, especially when we're new into a business, we feel uncomfortable asking, because maybe in our mind it feels like a bait and switch, or we put ourselves, we empathize with the person on the other side of the phone and says, well, that's going to be a bait and switch. He's going to get angry. I don't want to have the confrontation. But the fact of the matter is, this is a business, and we have, if you follow standard business practice, right, we have an obligation to our investors, which in our case is us, to maximize profits in an ethical way. And so what is the right price to buy a property at? Well, in capitalism, the market determines the process. There's bids and there's asks. This is what I'm willing to offer the property. This is what they're asking the property. And somewhere along the way, we find out what the price is that both parties are willing to accept. That's the market-based price. So if you ask for the lower price, and they're up here and they're saying, this is what they want for the property, you're trying to find that point at which both parties will accept it. And that is a perfectly ethical and appropriate way to do business. We shouldn't feel bad about it at all. And the thing is that when you ask, well, I'm going to back up for just a moment. I want to tell a quick story, if it's okay.
Sure.
When I graduated from graduate school, I had no clue how to get a job. So this is I'm going to come back to this, but I just didn't know how to do it. The day I graduated from college, I was commissioned in the Marine Corps. I never had to get a job in my life. I had no clue what I was doing. And a good friend of mine who had gotten out of the Marine Corps a year before I did was just a master communicator, and he was already in the workforce, and he was advising me on this, and he was absolutely brilliant. And the part of what he was teaching me was when you get to salary negotiation, what's going to happen is if they want you, if you decide you're the guy for the job, they're going to make you an offer. And you've got a couple choices. You got two choices at that point. Well, three, right? You could say, I changed my mind. I don't want the job. Or two, you can say, thank you very much. I accept your offer. Or three, you can counter. He said, every single time, you need to counter, because they're not giving you their best offer. They're give you a low ball offer to see if they can get it. It's no different than the land business. So you always counter. And when you counter, there are three possible responses you're going to get. They're either going to say yes, or they're going to say no, or they're going to counter your counter and say, oh, let's split the difference, or something like that. So what they're not going to do is they're not going to say, screw you, we're rescinding our offer. They're not going to do that, because they made you the offer because they think you're the right guy for the job. So they're going to say yes, no, or they're going to counter. And which means that by asking for it, the worst that can happen is you accept the offer, which would have happened if you didn't counter anyway. That's right. The worst case scenario. But there's all this upside now. Either you can get partially what you asked for or all of what you asked for. And it's the same thing in land. You go in and you need to make this part of the process, right? So when we think about the land business as a process, we pick a county, we get a list, we price the list, we mail the list. Then people call us and we get a discussion and say, oh, they want to sell me the property. I want to buy it. So we go into due diligence. And then after due diligence, if it passes due diligence, we go into closing. Well, what I would suggest to people, and this is the hack, is between due diligence and closing, there is a little piece in there, which is a final communication with the customer, where you agree to the terms, so that when you create the deed or option or whatever it is that you're creating, you're already in agreement on those terms. That is the final negotiating opportunity. You never want to miss that step in the process. You need to think about it as a step in the process. It is as natural and as essential as doing due diligence itself. And when you do that,
add that into land speed, Howard.
Well, it essentially is in land speed. It is in land speed because there's a whole part of land speed with the calculator for valuing the property and figuring out what your margin is going to be and what your break evens are going to be. And it gives you, and then you can say, well, based upon my expected revenue and what my current all-in cost, my expected all-in cost is going to be, this is what my ROI is going to be on the deal. And then there's a spot that says, if I want a better ROI, you can put in my preferred ROI, and it'll say, oh, well, if you want that ROI, instead of paying this for the property, you need to pay this for the property. And it gives you the number, right?
True, yeah.
So
very good.
So you go in there and it's all about how you say it. So what my friend taught me when I was trying to get a job and I was doing salary negotiation is he said, you can ask for anything you want. You can ask for more money. You can ask for a different title. You can ask for a larger bonus. You can ask for more educational benefits, whatever it is you want. However, this is the key thing. This is the most important thing. Whatever you ask for, you must come across humble, and it must be presented as a very reasonable thing. So you have to explain why you're asking for it and why it's reasonable. So you might go in and say, hey, look, I've done, a lot of research and I see what other companies are paying in the area are paying for a similar position. And when I look at, this data set and I look at the average, it's here, your offer's down here. And I think, when I look at, the larger opportunity, the right place for me to start would be here in keeping with what other companies are paying for similar positions. And now it's a fully justified and reasonable proposition. Again, they still have three options. They can say yes, they can say no, or they can counter. But at least you presented it in a very nice way. No one's going to rescind an offer if you say it nicely and you justify it. So within land, you've just gone through your whole due diligence process. They have no idea what that means. They don't know what information you're pulling or what kind of things you're looking at. Your job at this stage of the process is to figure out everything wrong with the property. Right. Okay, is there a problem with access? Is there a problem with the slope of the land? Is there is there a problem with wells in the area and my ability to get water out of it? Is it a zoning issue? Whatever it is, you're trying to find something that you can present as not absolutely optimal. And then you go in and you start really positive. You're like, hey, Mr. Smith, we just finished our due diligence, and I am excited to let you know that there were no showstoppers. There's nothing to prevent us from doing this deal. So I'm really looking forward to moving forward with you. However, I do need to make you aware of some of what we found. And, this, that, and the other thing. And so we've got a very refined process in place where we value properties and figure out what put it into our models to make sure that, that this property fits our model so that we can achieve what we want to achieve. And based upon these inputs, it doesn't look like I'm going to be, it looks like I'm going to have to decrease my offer, not by a lot, but by this much in order to make the model work. Otherwise, I would have to look at other properties that do fit the model. But hopefully that's, not a significant amount for you, and everything else works. And if you're game for this, then we can close very quickly and get some money in your pocket.
Hey folks, my name is David Van Steenkist, and I've been a real estate investor for over 10 years. I've used lots of different tools, but none of them has done for my business what LandSpeed does. LandSpeed covers every step in the land investing process, from ordering mailing lists to marketing, sales, and closing the deal. What I really like, though, is it anticipates my needs. When I think, I wish I had a quick and easy way to evaluate return on investment on a potential property, look no further, LandSpeed does it. If I want to edit a deed after LandSpeed creates it, it can do that too. Most systems just stick you with a PDF that's uneditable, and you got to go back into the system and edit the fields and do whatever you need to do, and it's a real pain in the rear end. LandSpeed simplifies it. If I want to send 1 or 5 or even 40 neighbor letters at the click of a button, bam, LandSpeed does it. But even with all that inherent capability, you get access to LandSpeed Community, you get weekly mastermind calls, and you get the best mailing rates in the business with no volume commitment, which is freaking awesome. Because if I just want to pop one contract to somebody, I don't have to pay $1.50. I still pay the bargain basement rate. And on top of that, customer service is stellar, quick, and they just do a great job. I've been very, very happy, very pleased with it. And look, I've been running my business on LandSpeed for over 2 years. So take it from me. If you're serious about your land business, then check out LandSpeed at facebook.com/landbizautomation. That's land, B-I-Z automation. And if you want $100 off, tell them you heard it from me, David Van Steenkist, on the Land.MBA podcast. Hey, Howard, we're almost out of time. So one last question. What's the final tip for people to do this and actually get results?
So great question. Before I answer that, though, I probably should just circle back to the title here, $12,000. Where does that number come from? So if you are currently doing 10 deals a month, so that would be about 120 a year. Your goal should be to average about $100 decrease per property in that that final negotiation between due diligence and closing. That's an average. Sometimes you can do more, which will counter. Sometimes it doesn't work out at all, or sometimes you do less. But if you can average $100 and you're doing 10 properties a month, that's $1,000 a month. That's $12,000 a year. Obviously, if you're doing a smaller deal flow, the number's smaller, but proportionally it's the same. You're still getting that extra, averaging that extra $100 per deal that's going straight to your bottom line. I would say, as far as my final piece of advice on this, it's when you first try to do this, it may feel a little bit uncomfortable. It may feel, you may just have that feeling like, oh, it's bait and switch. After a few times, it'll feel perfectly natural, I promise you. But I just want to really reemphasize that point, that what you're doing is ethical, it's appropriate. It is a natural part of business, which is price discovery. And at any point in time, if they don't like it, they can say no. And if they say no, you could still do the deal. I mean, there's no reason you can't. You can always change your mind and say, well, you know what? It doesn't quite fit my model, but I really like you and I really like this land. I think I'm going to make an exception in this particular case. Sure. So you could always back off from it at the very end and still buy the property. No one's going to stop you from that. And that actually happened to me once. There was a guy, he was an older guy and he was really crotchety. And I did the whole process with him and he said, look that's the price you gave me. That's the price I'll do. And if you don't like that price, I'm out. Well, that's a long way to say no. And I said, you know what, Mr. Whatever, I'm going to do the deal. We're going to do it. And we did it. And I sold it. Nice. I made money on it.
Nice. Real quick, on the, people who are doing 10 deals a month, that's pretty good deal volume. Most people doing that kind of deal volume I would assume, are doing typically cheaper deals. But the same principle works if you're doing lower volume and higher end deals. Your decrease request is going to be proportionate to the value of those properties. So instead of asking for 200 to get 100, you might be asking for 2,000 to get 1,000. So I asked for 2,000 on a $3,000 property and I just got it, but that's rare. So, hey, awesome chat. Let's do it again. People, thanks for watching and we'll talk to you later.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, had a bit of fun, and walked away with some actionable insights that you can apply to your business. Dave and I have got some great content and interviews planned, so don't forget to rate and review, and of course subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. If we mention any interesting links or tools, you'll find them in the show notes. To learn more about Land.MBA, visit our website at, wait for it, Land.MBA. See you next time on the Land.MBA podcast.